Chapter 7. From Scarcity to Sufficiency. The divine timing, how it can require patience and trust. Scarcity whisper, you are missing something. Sufficiency answers, I already have enough. This shift opens the gate to peace. The year was 2022. I remember that spring so vividly, not because of any grand event, but because of what was happening within me. Life had been generous in many ways. My children were grown. My grandchildren were beginning to fill the family gatherings with laughter, and my days were filled with writing and reflection. Yet, despite all those blessings, I sometimes caught myself whispering the same old thought that had haunted me for years. Maybe I should have done more by now. It was a quiet whisper, subtle but dangerous, the voice of scarcity. Scarcity doesn't always mean we lack money. It's often the silent belief that we lack time, love, opportunities, or enoughness. It's the fear that we are somehow falling behind in the invisible race of life. That year, while sitting in the small garden behind my home in Elcro, I finally began to see how deeply that illusion had shaped me. I realized that all along, divine timing had been guiding me, but my impatience had often blinded me to its rhythm, the illusion of not yet. For most of my life, I have been a woman of motion. As the wife, mother, and later grandmother, there was always something that needed to be done. I grew up in the culture where survival demanded effort and progress was measured by visible success. We were taught that if something wasn't happening fast enough, we had to push harder. But divine timing doesn't work that way. The universe doesn't rush, yet everything unfolds in perfect harmony. Still, the human mind resists. We crave control. We believe we must make things happen. When the youngest of my 3 sons got married, I thought my heart would finally rest. But there was a sense of completion, a mother's circle fulfilled. Yet even then, I found myself asking, what's next? I looked around and thought, maybe I should write faster, publish more, reach more people, expand my success. That was scarcity speaking again, dressed this time in ambition. I realized something profound. Scarcity often disguises itself as productivity. It makes you believe that peace will come after you achieve, after you earn, after you arrive. But sufficiency whispers a quieter truth. Peace is available now. If only you trust that this moment already contains what you need. Divine timing and garden of life. Gardening has always been one of my greatest teachers. Every spring I plant seeds of herbs, vegetables, and flowers in small, humble beds. I water them faithfully, but I cannot rush their growth. No matter how much sunlight I offer or how often I check the soil, the seeds will only sprout when their time comes. That is divine timing in its simplest form. Each seed carries a divine schedule within it, a sacred knowing of when to break open, when to reach upward, and when to bloom. The gardener's task is not to force growth, but to nurture faith that spring. As I sat watching the small buds emerge after weeks of waiting, I suddenly saw the same pattern in my own life. The season of abundance and scarcity, of waiting and receiving, were all part of the same rhythm. When I was young, life was about planting, learning, building, and working hard for the future. When I became a mother, life was about watering, pouring love, time, and care into the lives of the children. And now, in this later chapter of life, I realized that it was about trusting the harvest, knowing that what I had sown long ago would ripen in its own time. But trusting the harvest requires patience. It asks us to believe that just because we can't see growth, it doesn't mean nothing is happening. When life makes you wait, waiting has never been easy for me. In 2020, during the pandemic, when the world seemed to stop spinning, I experienced one of the most paradoxical lessons about timing. It was the year when everyone was forced to slow down. Fear, uncertainty, and isolation filled the air. Yet within my family, that year brought the greatest blessing, the birth of my grandchild. That moment reminded me that even when the world seems dark, the universe continues to create light and love in the hidden corners. While everyone was talking about loss and limitation, I held a new life in my arms, a reminder that abundance is never truly gone, it simply shifts form. Still, divine timing doesn't always bring immediate joy. Sometimes it asks us to endure, to hold faith when things look impossible. I remember the time my son had his motorcycle accident in 2017. The fear and guilt I felt were indescribable. I was far away, and I couldn't be there for him in the way a mother's heart desires. I questioned everything. Why now? Why him? Why me so far away? It took years to understand that even in that painful chapter, something sacred was unfolding. My son's resilience, our family's unity, and my own spiritual awakening all grew from that soil of suffering. It was a reminder that divine timing is not always convenient, but it is always perfect. Scarcity begins in the mind. Scarcity begins not in the wallet, but in the mind. It starts with the thought, I'm missing something. I once believed I needed more financial stability before I could feel secure. Then I believed I needed more recognition as a writer before I could feel successful. Later, I believed I needed more time before I could truly rest, but with every more, peace moved further away. One morning, during the walk around the neighborhood, I stopped under a tall maple tree and felt a quiet nudge within me, almost as if the wind itself whispered, "What if you already have everything you need?" It was a question that softened something inside me. From that day forward, I began practicing what I call the art of sufficiency. It means pausing each morning to name three things that were already enough: the smell of coffee, the quietness of my husband, and the simple grace of being alive. And I realized something miraculous. The more grateful I became, the more abundance revealed itself around me. The spiritual mechanics of gratitude. There is a strange but divine mathematics to gratitude. The more you give thanks, the more life gives you reason to give thanks again. When you wake up each morning with thoughts, I have enough, you shift your vibration to scarcity, to sufficiency, from fear to faith, and life, being a mirror that it is, reflects that energy back to you. Opportunities appear not because you chase them, but because you match them. In the years after my first book, A Road to Wealth and Happiness, was published, I began receiving letters from readers who say that the book helped them see wealth differently, not as accumulation, but as appreciation. Some told me that they started keeping gratitude journals and their financial lives improved. Others say that relationships grew deeper. That's when I saw clearly gratitude is not just emotional, it's energetic. It opens channels where energy can flow freely. Scarcity blocks the flow with fear, while gratitude invites circulation. The law of give and take perfectly balanced. When you thank life for what you already have, you prove that you already for more. Trusting when nothing makes sense. But there are moments when gratitude feels hard, when the waiting stretches long and hope grows thin. I remember one such season vividly. It was the year after we moved to El Grove. I had left behind my familiar circle of friends and a community that had been part of my daily rhythm for years. My heart felt lonely. I missed the comfort of belonging. I kept asking the universe, why did you bring me here? Months went by before I began to see the answer. Elgro was not a punishment, it was a preparation. In the quiet town, away from distractions, I began to write with deeper clarity than ever before. My spiritual life blossomed in solitude. The stillness became my classroom, and patience became my teacher. Divine timing had placed me exactly where I needed to be, even if I couldn't see it at first. That is often how sufficiency begins, not with gain, but with trust. Trust that the current chapter, even if it feels incomplete, holds sacred purpose. Trust that the pieces you don't understand today will someday fit perfectly into divine pattern. The shift from doing to being. In the culture obsessed with doing, learning how to simply be is a radical act. For decades, I defined myself by what I did, by my roles, achievements, and productivity. I was a wife, a mother, a businesswoman, a writer. Each title carried responsibility, but as I grew older, I began to sense that my soul desired something deeper, not to do more, but to be more, to be peaceful, to be content, to be alive with the rhythm of life rather than constantly running ahead of it. That shift from doing to being is the essence of sufficiency. It's not laziness or complacency, it's wisdom. It's the understanding that real abundance does not come from effort alone, but from harmony, the balance between action and surrender. When we act, we plant the seed. When we surrender, we allow it to grow. The hidden blessing of the delay. Every day in life carries a hidden blessing. When something you desire doesn't arrive on your schedule, it's not denial, it's alignment. I've learned that divine timing doesn't follow human calendars. Sometimes the universe delays what we think we want because it's preparing us to receive it well. A blessing received too early can become a burden. There was a time I prayed for success as a writer when I wasn't yet ready for its weight. If it had arrived then, I might have mistaken fame for fulfillment. I might have written for approval rather than truth. The waiting refined me. It purified my motives. When success finally came, I received it with gratitude, not greed. That is the wisdom of divine delay. It ensures that what you receive will suit your soul, not your ego. From scarcity to sufficiency in relationships. Scarcity doesn't only appear in money or time, it also hides in relationships. It whispers, I'm not loved enough, I'm not appreciated enough. There was a time early in my marriage when I measured love by gestures, by how often my husband noticed and praised me. But as the years went by, I began to see love differently. Love was not about quantity, it was about quality. It was about the quiet consistency of care, the shared laughter after a long day, the comfort of sitting together in silence. When I shifted my needing for more love to appreciating the love already present, my relationship blossomed. Sufficiency turned ordinary moments into treasures. This applies to the family too. As a mother, I once carried the guilt of not being enough, not doing enough, not giving enough, and not being near enough. But with time, I realized that love given with sincerity, no matter how imperfect, is enough. Love multiplies through intention, not through measurement. The divine rhythm of seasons. Life moves in seasons. There is a time to plant, a time to wait, a time to harvest, and a time to rest. When we resist this rhythm, we create suffering, but when we trust it, we find peace. There were years of striving when I pushed hard for success, believing that momentum meant progress. Then there came years of quiet when everything slowed down and I fear I had lost my spark. But each season had its own wisdom. The year of striving taught me endurance. The years of stillness taught me trust. And together they reveal the greater truth. Divine timing weaves every season into a masterpiece. Just as the winter prepares the earth for spring, your moments of waiting prepare you for a new beginnings. Nothing is wasted in the hands of the divine. Lessons for my grandchildren. My grandchildren have become some of my greatest spiritual teachers. Children live naturally in sufficiency. They don't worry about what's missing. They delight in what's present. A simple butterfly, a cookie, or a hug is enough to make their day complete. Their innocence reminded me of something sacred. Abundance is not found in possessions, but in perception. The world is full of miracles if we have eyes to see them. Every breath, every sunrise, and every heartbeat is proof that life is abundant. Practicing the stage of enough, sufficiency is not a destination, it's a daily practice. Each morning, I ask myself 3 questions. What do I already have that brings me peace? What am I grateful for that I often overlook? What I can give today that will create more love in this world? These questions anchor me in the present. They remind me that wealth, happiness, and success are not separate paths. They are one in the same when lived with gratitude and faith. Scarcity says, I will be happy when ... Sufficiency says, I'm happy now and that happiness will attract more. Divine timing and the law of circulation. There is the universal law called the law of circulation. What you give out must return, often multiply. When you live in the mindset of sufficiency, you naturally give more, not because you have excess, but because you trust that life will replenish you. The trust keeps energy flowing. If you hold too tightly to money, to love, to control, you block circulation. But when you release it with faith, life always gives back. This is why generosity is not a financial act, it's a spiritual one. It declares, I have enough to share, and that declaration shifts your vibration from scarcity to abundance. Patience, the silent power. Patience is not passive, it's the active expression of faith. When we are patient, we align with the divine rhythm rather than fighting against it. Impatience says, I don't trust the timing. Patience says, I believe it's on its way. Every fulfilled dream in my life came after a season of waiting, sometimes years, sometimes decades, and every delay it hindsight carry a sacred reason. Divine timing is never late. It arrives at the precise moment when our soul is ready to receive the lesson behind the blessing. The fullness of the present moment. The greatest miracle of sufficiency is the ability to find fullness in the present moment. This moment right here, right now is complete. It contains everything you need for peace. When you realize that, you stop chasing and start living. You stop fearing the future and begin trusting the flow. You begin to see the universe is not withholding anything from you. It's preparing you to receive in wholeness. That is the essence of sufficiency. To live as you already are enough, already have enough, already give enough. Life lessons. Gratitude expands life. At the end of this journey from scarcity to sufficiency, one truth stands clear. The more grateful you are, the more abundant life becomes. Gratitude is the bridge between scarcity and sufficiency. It turns what we have into enough. And what we experience into grace, it transforms ordinary days into sacred gifts. As I look back at the seasons of my life, the years of fear and striving, of waiting and of receiving, I can see that each one perfectly timed. Divine timing never failed me. It only asked for my trust. And now, in this chapter of peace, I live by quiet mantra. I am where I need to be. I have what I need to have. I am who I need to become. From scarcity to sufficiency, from impatience to trust, the journey was never about gaining more, but about awakening to the truth that everything I ever needed was already within me. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope you click subscribe to hear the next chapter.